in. We're
Break it down.
we're ready for it. Here we go. Part 10, personal property.
Includes your dog. That includes your dog. That includes your dog.
So, Erin, how does personal property a factor when it comes to a divorce proceeding?
My hope in your divorce is that I don't deal with it at all. Personal property typically refers to things that are not like a house, a vehicle of a high dollar value, right? It doesn't include your retirement account. It doesn't include your investment accounts. If you don't know what a brokerage account, instead of setting up a very expensive phone call with your lawyer, you should probably Google it. Because if you Google it and you find out what it is and then you don't know what it is, you probably don't have any. I know you know who you are. I'm talking to you. So I don't know if I have any brokerage accounts. I don't know what a brokerage account is. I'm like, then you probably don't have one. You would know. Anyway, I was like, did you try Googling it or doing it? No, I just thought I'd ask you. I'm like, that's fine. You can. I'm happy to answer it. But he spent a lot of money on that phone call. He could have Googled it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm happy to answer it. But he conclusion, he doesn't have any.
I'm amazed.
So let me kind of get back to your personal property after being a hoot. Obviously it was somebody I was in opposition to. And that brokerage question was a pro se litigant, by the way. So I was like, did you Google it? You don't know if you have brokerage accounts. He was trying to play us. That was pretty silly. So
you can't play the Morse.
Players are going to play. Mm-mm. So your personal property, your household furniture, your grandmother's credenza, the, memory box that you have, the Christmas decorations, all of your shoes in your closet, your toothbrush, your clothing. So typically we like to call those things like toothbrush, clothing, shoes, whatever. Those are your personal effects, but they do fall under personal property. So the same goes for anything that's in your house that isn't of incredible value, right? So we usually will distribute and deal with vehicles. We'll usually distribute and deal with credit card debt. We'll usually distribute and deal with intangible financials, right? So things that you can't put your fingers on. But I usually don't deal with like the bedroom set unless a party really needs us to, right? Say you have such a large house that maybe you want everything in the house that's in Windermere, right? And he wants everything in the house that's in Delray Beach, right? Though that would make sense that you kind of deal with it that way, that all of that personal property and furniture. Your furniture is probably not as valuable as you think it is, right? On the Antique Roadshow,
I love
they
those.
probably would come back and be like, this has no value, because how you value personal property is what you could sell it for, what you could sell it for on Facebook Marketplace, at a yard sale, Antiques Roadshow, something like that. So if it doesn't have an incredible amount of value in that arena, you typically don't have your attorney deal with it. I typically don't go to court on it because, the cost outweighs the benefit of getting it back.
Yeah.
So that's really how we deal with your personal property. The hope is that you and your spouse, because we don't deal with it in paternity cases. So if you have any type of personal property asset liability issue, your paternity case ain't the place to do it. But in a divorce, we will deal with it.
Okay.
So your answer to personal property is maybe I'll deal with it, but maybe not. Hopefully the two of you can be mature enough and figure out if you want the bed that you and your soon-to-be ex-spouse slept in, or the fact that your children will now need 2 furniture sets. So if one of you moves out, one of you is going to have to replace that furniture and start from scratch. It's easy enough.
Question number 1, Erin. Can debt incurred prior to the marriage ever becoming marital debt that both parties can be responsible for paying during a divorce?
Maybe kinda. One of the ways is Sorry, I'm working. One of the ways that can happen is if you say it's a credit card and you keep using the credit card, or you add your spouse to the account, then you've kind of commingled it in the same way.
Oh, no.
Usually that doesn't happen as often with debt, but it could. If you were to commingle it in the same way that you would commingle an asset, a very strong argument could be made that commingling makes it marital and that they would be responsible for that debt. But other things that were acquired before the marriage and really didn't get commingled, then no, it would remain non-marital.
Now, since
so like student loans are a good example of that.
Now, since you only practice here in the state of Florida, there was a follow-up to this one. It's like, would this be limited to community property states?
I don't know what a community property state does and what that means. I do a little bit, but I think in a community property state, what might happen, and I don't know, I'm not licensed there, I'm just guessing, so I have about the same amount of information as somebody who did a Google search. So my understanding of a community property state is all the debt that exists at the time of the divorce ends up being something marital. Maybe that's the rule, maybe it's not, but that sounds like it sucks.
I thought you were gonna do the whole departed thing. Maybe not. Maybe. All right, here's the next question. What steps can people take with joint credit cards and other joint loans or accounts prior to filing for a divorce to make the process easier?
Pay them off.
Very simple.
If they don't exist, then it's not an issue to be litigated.
Now, let's say, for example, during right before they're about to file, but like it's like $15,000-$30,000 that they're in debt. Would that debt roll over into the marriage, or if just one person was the one who was responsible for that debt?
Say that again.
All right. So let's say, for example, the question here: what steps can people take with joint credit cards and other joint loans prior to filing for divorce?
Paid off.
Now, let's say they're in the process of paying it off, and then boom, wife filed for the divorce. It's like, no, I'm still working on this, like, because it's a large amount.
Well, here's something that's interesting.
Uh-oh.
I had a case like this where the husband was like, I don't think I should have to pay her alimony. Imagine that all the circumstances and check boxes are there that she would be entitled to alimony. Financials, all the good reasons, right? So accept that premise in this conversation. Well, he said in open court that he'd be willing to take on all of the marital debt because he's been working and has paid most of it off, that he'd be willing to take the rest of the marital debt to not have to have alimony. Now, what's stupid is you say that in mediation, because you could make that argument in mediation and see if they would agree, because mediation is confidential and that offer in mediation stays confidential. However, when you went to court and you said you'd be willing to do that, the judge went, you said you'd be willing to do that, but if you didn't have alimony. However, I find that you have an alimony obligation. So I'm going to give you the debt that you're willing to take and an alimony obligation. Excellent. Sounds like everyone's comfortable with this.
Funny world.
You played yourself, right? He said it. I don't think his attorney was expecting him to elicit it. His attorney was a great attorney. He just kind of spit it out that I'll take it if I don't have to have alimony. The judge was like, well, I'm not ordering no alimony, but I'll give you all the debt, especially because you make more money.
Yeah. So
this makes sense to me. I was like, yeah. And she got the boat. You know why she ended up getting the boat in that case? Obviously, it wasn't her boat. It was a husband's boat, typically. Yeah. Was because he went to court and he went, I don't know how much it's worth.
Oh.
And she went and she knew how much it was worth. She did the research to figure it out. She got the boat.
Let's get us a freaking boat. I got two more for you, Erin. Next one coming up. And it actually kind of rolls into what we were just talking about. What should someone do if their ex isn't keeping up with their debt payments despite a divorce decree?
Motion for contempt and enforcement. Depending on what it is, alimony and child support can be enforced by contempt. Equitable distribution cannot.
With the microphone. There you go.
Equitable distribution can't be enforced by contempt.
So
Enforcement.
All right. Hopefully she got that one. And then we got the last one coming in. Financial. And this is one that, like, when
you
I
could flip it to a judgment and go after him with a judgment.
And that one would be with the collections attorney, right? To be able to
Yeah.
seize the assets in a way.
But you'll have to take some action in the divorce case to flip it to a judgment.
All right. So the final one that we got right here: financial infidelity is common in marriages. Any advice on someone who gets blindsided by their partner's debt during
divorced.
a divorce?
Too bad. Sorry.
So at that point, like, there are they basically, is there anything like you would advise them to do at that point?
File for divorce. Make sure that filing date exists, so that the debt doesn't continue to creep up. You're going to have to deal with it somehow. I'm sure that you could make some arguments, but the I didn't know about it isn't a viable one.
I mean, there are a lot of, I don't want to say like there are a lot of times, but I know Hollywood put this out there, and that, people were, funneling money, or, there were gambling debts or things like that. And they were under the impression that there was money. And now, when the divorce comes in, there's nothing there. Like, it's completely wiped out because of that individual's debts.
Right. And there is often, I've had a judge order that she believed the husband did that on purpose, that it was by design, that there was no assets and all debt. I'm like, meaning he paid off the debt that they incurred during the marriage? Yeah. Sounds like it makes sense to me. He sold their vacation or second home and then paid off all their debts. So they both owned their cars free and clear, and paid off all their debts, including student loans. I'm like, this makes sense. I'm like, it could have been done by a mathematical calculation with you, by making her take certain debts, him take certain debts, and then giving her an asset. Or there could just be kind of very little left over, and he already handled it directly with the creditors. That makes sense to me. I don't know. It feels simple.
If it's simple.